Hello and welcome to the second video of this series. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to start creating the bones. For creating the bones, you need to simply come here inside your create panel, and then you will come here to systems, and you will notice we have this thing called bones. I will come here to create, sorry, not create, hold on a second, tools. Sorry, not, oh yeah, my bad. Come to animation and find bone tools. And clicking this, you will notice that we have this whole plugin here that is solely made for creating bones and other things. Now, before we get started, I need to tell you a couple of things that you guys must know. Is that, hold on a second, let me just exit this. Yep, okay. So that's the front viewport. Yeah, you need to know a couple of things for orientation. For example, the leg bones. Whenever we will create the leg bones, whether for animals or humanoids or quadrupeds or anything, you will always use the left viewport for this. The reason is that because we want to prefer the orientation as the leg moves in this direction and we want the Y up to be in this direction. So we will always use the left viewport for that. Same for the rib cage and the spine and the head bone, okay? As well as the pelvis. So they will always be created in the left viewport, okay? Note these down. The second thing that you need to know is for the creation of the arms, we will use the top viewport as well as those clavicle bones that are usually the shoulder bone. In some 3D software, such as CAT inside 3D Studio Max, you guys can go and check out Milo's Cherney channel. He also shows you some really great tools for 3D Studio Max CAT, but you guys are here for simple rigging, so we will stick to that. We will always use this viewport, okay? And any other type of orientation, such as creation of the hand bones, like I told you, like the hand bones will move like this. Like if you flinch your fingers here, if I temporarily exit this mode and go to shaded, the fingers move like in this direction. As if you follow the arc of my mouse cursor, it usually moves like this. So we will use the front view port for that. Whereas for the thumb, you can just duplicate one of those finger bones and manually rotate and place it. But if we want the thumb to be Z up, like the thumb kind of moves forward towards you, towards the screen, like it points towards you. Like even if you move your thumb, like move it upside down, like a thumbs up and a thumbs down. You guys get the idea. So for that too, like you guys get the idea. We can create it in this viewport like this. If I switch over to shaded, yeah. So there's the thumb again. It's being covered by the hand fingers, but yeah, it will move like this here. But alternatively, and in this viewport, it will move towards you. So remember, legs and spine and head bones, the left viewport or the right viewport works as well, left or right. Okay. Hands, top or bottom. Working with the bottom can be a pain. Top is okay because the arms, if they're in a T pose, this one will be a bit hard for us because of the model, but this is a specific reason I chose this model. So if you guys get any problem, you guys will know how to fix that and pose it accordingly because in a T-pose it's much easier. So these were the points I wanted to cover. And hand bones, the front viewport, okay? So with it can be also done for like if you're trying to make things like a socket bone, like games use that. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. So I will explain the bone tools to you before we start. So the first thing you will see is the bone edit mode. We have entered it, but we can't really edit it because there's nothing. So over here, this bone button you see, when I click it here inside the systems, it's the same thing as this create bones. Okay, that's the same tool. So for now, I will just temporarily create a bone in my front viewport and let me toggle that big. So I'm going to create a bone here by clicking it. Remember that, so as you create a bone, it kind of forms a hierarchy pretty much like a chain. So you can just create like every click, it just keeps creating it, okay? So now when I want to exit the bone mode, I will simply hit right click and it will exit it. You will notice like it has created like on each of my click, it's created this weird random bone. And I'm still in create bone mode. So if I click again, it will just start creating a new bone. And when I hit right click, it's still there. You need to make sure to turn this off, okay? To turn it off, you will hit right click again. You will notice it disables in both. Like it's the same button here. Over here in this panel from the utilities, you get a couple of things, such as the IK chain assignment. I will explain this in another video. Basically, we have two things known as IK and FK, which are hierarchy dependent and independent. I will explain that once you guys know the hierarchy. Now, this panel will be useful for only two things. One of them will be for renaming your bones, and second will be for coloring them. But as you can see here, there's no rename bone option here, only the color assignment. So this color is here because sometimes you have so many bones in your scene. Like for example, let's say you have the arms. So you want to keep everything at your left side red or blue, so you will color code that. And for the arms, sorry, the right side, you can like make the right side body parts either green or any color. Like different studios use different type of techniques for that. So, and also it kind of helps the rigger, the person, sorry, the rigger creates the rig, the animator. It kind of makes it easy for them to determine like which part is which. Like it's kind of a color code. You guys will know it in the later stages what I mean and how is it helpful. Now we have done this. I will just exit this and I will show you a couple of things. Now remember, these are hierarchy dependent. What is a hierarchy? Remember, so this is a single big bone. This end part is called the nub, okay? The nub can always be deleted and recreated if you move your bones or edit them. Now this is a single bone. I will try to rotate this. I will rotate it. It rotates okay because it's the nub. It has a support behind it. But what if I try to move it? Will it move? It does move, but hold on a second. Let me zoom out a bit so you can see it more clearly. Here we are, and Control Z. Okay. I'm just gonna move it in the X. It is kind of trying to move, but it's like kind of anchored to it, and that backbone has no support. So yeah, it will move, but the nub bone, it's just there as a nub. Like it shows you that's the bone's end. And if the nub bone was missing, it's necessary to anchor them. Like it's good for repositioning and all, it's there. But during animation, let's say you want to like control this bone will act really funny. So we keep these nubs so it's like anchored there. You guys will know it in the later steps when we are actually rigging the hand. Okay, with that done, you guys know this, okay? Next thing we have is the remove bone, delete bone, and refine. First thing I will show you is the refine. Refine basically it's for like splitting the bone, like you can refine it. Let's say you want to turn, like it's a finger bone, assume it. The first joint is located here. We will make, like I'm just gonna tell you the bone tools. Here's the first cut, so here. And the next one will be right here. And yeah, I think yeah, three joints in the finger are enough, mostly for animation. So the refine, it basically like cuts the bone and splits it, like it splits and adds a new one. So now I'm gonna come here and move this. You will notice that as I am moving it, it's gonna help me reposition it. If I rotate the nub, it will only affect the nub and not the bones behind it. Similarly, in hierarchy, you can go up and down. Like for example, if you press page down on your keyboard, yeah, like press it with me. Nothing will happen because it's the end of the bone. But if I press page up, it's gonna go a link up. Another page up is gonna like move up and down. This will be helpful for you if you don't want to like manually mouse click and select it. So remember the shortcut. Page down for going down in the link, page up for coming up in the link. By link, I mean each bone is linked to each other. Like for example, if I choose this bone, which is the root bone of this, like the root bone is the first bone, also known as the starting bone. If I move this, all the bones will move with it. But what if I just try to move this bone here? If I try to move that, all the bones right next to it move, and this one's changing the orientation, but this point, the starting point, it's anchored right there, like it's really hard. You can try to pull it as much as you want. It might flinch a bit up or down, but it will just remain there anchored solidly, okay? That's what refine is for. Now, what is remove bone? Remove bone is the alternate of refine. It keeps the hierarchy intact. It only removes that bone that you have currently selected and merges it. For example, you will notice that this is the anchor point right here. Wait, let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, this is the joining point of that bone. It's literally joined to it. And here, like, it's just gonna take this point, it will remove this bone and join this one to that one, okay? That's what remove bone does. It's the opposite of refine. So we covered up refine and that. Delete bone, on the other hand, is very different because sometimes you need to delete a bone permanently. Like, let's say you don't need the nub bone and you're done posing it and creating your animations and now you're transferring this to a game engine. You don't want to keep that nub bone, okay? You can just simply hit delete bone. Remove bone will remove this, yes, it's the same, but delete bone will do the same. But you will be saying, what's the difference? Well, uh, delete bone does this. I'm gonna do this and delete bone, okay? And you will notice that it has created a new nub right here for the end of this bone. That's because we removed this and it has separated them. If I come here to graphs and hold on a second, uh, yeah, new schematic graph. A schematic graph, it kind of shows you the hierarchy in a schematic kind of way. So that big bone we made, hold on, let me make this bigger so you guys can see it. This might look confusing. It looked a lot confusing to me too, but don't worry about that. So this is basically our 3D model that we have in our scene. Here we have the bones, like this is bone 001. I'm going to select it right here and let me toggle this off. Hold on, let me frame it. So in the same as the schematic view, that's the first bone. Hold on a second. I kind of lost focus. Okay, yeah, here we are. So I'm going to select this here in the schematic view. You will notice this is the bone, and you will see that each one of them are linked. This arrow that shows the link means they're linked, okay? Like it's the child. Remember that the top bone, like whichever one, like let's say this was called, I needed to assume this is called bone 002, and this is called bone 001, okay? The number might came, like the name might come first, but whichever one is the top, is on the top. It will always be on the top, okay? Such as the root bone. So basically what it means is that bone 001 here is the root bone. So if I move this, the whole thing will move with it. That's the root bone, okay? That's what being the root bone means. Like it will move the whole model. Whereas this is the child of the root bone, which means if I move this, everything else will move or rotate or scale. Well, we really don't need to scale bones. In some cases we do, but that's different. We have bone resizing. We don't really need to scale it as it makes the bone stretchy. So we need to reset the stretch. This might sound confusing. I will cover this up too, okay? So this is what the hierarchy, like it's a hierarchy, each one of them. Now to select multiple bones, you can either double click on them or you can just press and hold like what was that? Yeah, page down, or you can just hit control page down to select. Like for example, I'm going to select this bone and I'm going to do page down. And let's say I want to select every bone right next to it. I will hit control and page down. It's going to select everything. This is also applicable for multiple models that are merged together, okay? Or grouped together. This is for that, but mostly it's a shortcut for bones and animation. Remember these shortcuts I'm telling you. So with this done, this was the first thing, okay? Similarly, we have a separate hierarchy here. You will notice we have this bone 18 and 21, this nub that has been recently created. So this is also the hierarchy. That means that this is the parent and the root bone as well. And we only have this nub. So this nub is the child and the end bone. Okay. So to know the end bone, you can just simply read the name right here, like this bone 17 right over here. So now you guys know a little bit about a hierarchy. What it does is that the delete bone option, it has kind of like deleted it. Okay. Now remember, use this schematic view. There are these display options. Just use it to see if your bones are linked together properly or not, to follow the hierarchy, okay? You don't have to use it for anything else. And I know my videos are a bit long, but trust me, like by the end of this series, this is why I'm going slow. I can finish this video in an hour or so. I just want you people to learn. So nobody was there to teach me, so I hope like even if a single person is watching this video, I don't care as long as they learn something from it. Okay, So now you guys know the schematic view, what's this for. You guys can also save it. Like there's a save option here somewhere. You can save that too, but for now I'm just gonna minimize it so it's open right there. Okay, so you guys know about delete bone and other things. And sometimes we also like need to separate bones. So I'm just gonna delete this and this and okay. Now you guys know about removing bones and deleting bones. Like if I choose this and also remove that, it just like kind of merges that in there, but all the animation that's done on those bones will be lost, especially deleting them. What is create end? I'm gonna create this new bone and I'm just gonna do this. Right click, it creates a nub by default. Like if you just want to end, like click, you only want a single bone. Oh my bad. You need to actually press it to determine the length and then hit right click again. It just ends the bone there. What does it mean to create the end? You will notice that I will choose this bone. I don't have the create end option because why? This is the root bone. What about this one? This one does not give me either. That means it has a bone in front of it and a bone at the back of it. It does not have it, like it already has this end. Now earlier on, like I will refine this bone here, right here, and refine it again, and choose this one and delete bone. Now you will notice that if I choose this new nub here, it has this end, okay? It's already the end bone, but it has no bone after it. So creating end, it kind of makes a nub by default. This is very useful, especially when you're like resetting the bones. That will be done in the bone edit mode. Remember, like during a normal model, when we move it, such as if I choose this, you will notice like this is for posing, okay? Where we can't really edit the bones. When you move it, rotate it, or scale it, this is not the same as we do for a 3D model. That's why 3D Studio Max give us these bone tools. Remember, this normal things are not the same as the bone edit mode, okay? Now you guys know how to create a bone, and connecting bones is kind of like this. Hold on a second, let me do a couple of Control Z. Okay, yeah, what is connect bone? Connect bones is like, let's say I choose this and this. Oh, sorry, my bad. Oh yeah, I will need to pick it, connect bones, and I will click here. It will automatically try to create a link and then you can reposition it and make it like better. So connect bone is the opposite of delete bone. It's used for connecting bones, okay? So with this done, what is reassign root? For example, I will open our schematic view again. I have that selected. This is the root bone. As you can see, it's on the top. And we have this connect bone 001. You can rename them for a better understanding. Um, so the connect bone, the reassign root, and the mirror. Okay, we will cover up the mirror. The reassign root means that, like, for example, I need this to be my root bone. If I'm moving this, it won't really move the whole skeleton. But let's say this was a humanoid skeleton and this was like a meeting point in between. I will just create this right here. Hold on a second, create bones. Uh, I'm just gonna create this, create that, and okay, I'm just gonna remove this bone, remove that one, and exit the bone creation mode. Just assume that's a pelvis. And the mirror bone, mirroring bone means that it basically mirrors that whole chain of bone. So I'm going to choose it. And when you use this mirror, you cannot use this for animation. Remember that, because if you mirror it, what it basically does is it just stretches something in the negative direction. For example, if I enter the perspective view and hold on, let me just come right here. What this mirror does is that which it kind of inverts your bone inside out. Same for the model, like what that mirror does. It basically, like, let's say I have this box right here. It basically, like, let's say I want to mirror it on the x-axis. What it does, it basically, it just like, okay, it's kind of doing a uniform scale, but it kind of like pushes it in the other direction, like kind of inverts, stretches it. I really can't explain it into words. Like it just moves it in the other, hold on a second. This might make a better thing, like it kind of, hold on a second, wait. Okay, yeah. it kind of, hold on, let me select these. It kind of does this. Like it takes your model, it just flips it like that. Like you see, I moved the vertices on the left. It kind of like just moves them in the negative direction where they were initially positioned, like a minus, like it just inverts them into a negative direction. We don't want that. That will cause you a lot of problems when actually animating. The bones axis is still there. Like the axis will remain still. Like you can see the XYZ did not really change. Okay? Because you will notice that if we mirror our bone, our x-axis should be on this side now because we are mirroring it. But here, the x-axis remains the same. The y will be the same. The y should be the front, and the z should be down. Like it should be. Um, hold on. Where's local? Yeah. Wait, W, yeah. It should be similar to this, what I'm doing right now. Yeah. The mirror should be kind of like that. Like the X, of course, 3ds Max will show it like this, but it should be like facing these directions. Like the X is still showing here in the gizmo, but the X is here. The Y is like kind of forward for the bone, and the Z is up there. These are not bones, so you guys kind of get the idea. I'm gonna delete it, come back to the bone and kind of show you that. Wait, where's the rotation? Hold on a second. The local view. Let me just change this and now go here. Yeah, you can kind of like see that. So it's much more visible in a pivot. Like the Y is the front now, the X is on the side, and the Z is the top. You guys get the idea. Like you guys will know as we start to work with the animation and stuff. So I hope like you guys kind of understand. This is why we have the mirror tool. So okay, I'm gonna enter the front viewport again, frame it and zoom out, close over schematic view. So the mirror tool here, it will just like literally mirror the bone for you. For example, I do this mirror, it's gonna give you a mirror axis. It's gonna tell you if you want like the axis you want to mirror it on X, Y. Let me enter perspective so you can, oh, sorry, cancel. Let me enter perspective mode so you can see it much better. Let me place it on this angle. Remember, you will need to choose the bones that you're mirroring. This is on the X and the Y is placed there. Don't worry about placement. That's the good thing about these bones. You can choose X, you can choose XY, you can choose XZ, you can choose ZX, like you guys get the idea. And also the Z axis, you can mirror it perfectly. And you can also choose the bone axis to flip the Y or the Z, depending on the axis you wanted. And we can also offset these, but you guys really don't need the offset. I pressed cancel on purpose because it went too much far. Here's the X, the Y, and the Z. Okay, let me make the 0. Okay, because if I do this, the good thing about mirror tools is that if I choose this bone, we mirrored it on the X-axis, right? What's the position on the X? I can simply copy this and also make sure you're in the view, because if it's local, these coordinates won't show. So make sure you're in the view mode. Come here, and finally, where is it? Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's right here. Just put a minus. It's gonna be right on the opposite side of it. Now here, it kind of made a mistake. Why is that? It literally took it here in the screen. Okay, that's kind of a error for you. But remember at the start of the first video, this is the sole reason we did that, what we did. Remember we set the pivot to 0, 0, 0. And also, we put our model to 0, 0, 0. You guys remember those two things, right? We placed them to 0 for this specific purpose, because if I come here to the left viewport and I sort of make a bone. Now, when creating bones, I just remembered another thing. I am just going to do this, a rough bone, just for that, and right click. So I'm going to come here again to the front mode and perspective and frame what we just created. Okay, my bad, sorry, control. Here we are. I need to exit that mode. Yeah. So you will notice that it's a in the left viewport or the top or any viewport we create, it's actually positioned right in the middle of the screen. It's designed that way. And let me just choose this bone and just do it on the left side. I will rotate it just a bit so it matches the orientation. You got the X, the Y, and the Z. Okay, yeah, it's not really choosing the green axis. Okay, yeah, it's in gimbal mode, my bad. That was the reason. We use that for animation. Yeah, it's in view now. That will be much better for me. Hold on. I was wondering why it was not working. It entered gimbal mode. So yeah, my angle snap is on too, but I just needed to like roughly zoom. Hold on a second, even better. I will just take this, choosing the top bone. I will place this right here, then rotate it. I'm going to turn off the angle snap by pressing A. And yeah, it's placed right there. If I switch to the wireframe mode, it's there. Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah, it's right there in the foot. So I just did this rough thing, and now I will use the bone tools. I'm going to do control page down to select this whole link. And you will notice that like before this was kind of an error for us. But over here, when I press mirror now, you will see it did that same thing as before. We left it to Y. It's going to flip the Y axis. And here we are in the X. And I'm going to hit OK and zoom in. Now remember, uh, okay, I'm going to come here to move. The coordinate here, okay, yeah, it kind of selected that as well. Control Z. Okay, it's 3.2.1.2, like that's the coordinate. And if I choose this bone here and come here to the move, you will notice it's at the same, but it's flipped. It's flipped in the other direction. It's not inverted like the mirror there invert. It's good for models and stuff. It's not good for animation because later on it will cause you a lot of problems. So I will just type a negative here and you will notice it exactly moves that whole chain of bone to the other side. This is the reason we did that first step in the first video, okay? That was the sole reason for doing that. And over here, as you can see this, when we're doing it on the other side of the screen, it mirrors perfectly there. And that's kind of a disadvantage because when I was doing it, I will need to grab it, move it all the way back and readjust it. That's a huge flaw. But to do it this way, like it's designed this way, it's for a reason to do it this way. So that's the mirror tool, okay? The mirror will mostly do it. But what about in the mirror tools, you guys can also determine an offset when you're mirroring it. Like you can predetermine the offset, whether you want it in a negative or a positive direction where you want it mirrored. But what about this bone axis to flip? Bone axis to flip, we will cover this up when we start to orient our bone. But remember that we will fix this. We have to fix this, okay, when you do this axis because we want the bones to move in a motion, not exactly the same. Like for example, your left hand side is not equal to your right hand side. Like for example, your left hand or your left arm moves in the left direction. Like if you see the arc of my hand, it moves like this, okay, in the left direction. And whereas if let's say that your right arm is supposed to move like this, your right arm can't move like this. It's supposed to move like this. Like that's the way it is designed. That's the way it is. Like if let's say for some reason the axis has been flipped now, so when you move your arm up like this, it's supposed to move like this, but the axis is flipped. So when both of your arms are flapping together like the wings of a bird flap, instead of moving it like right here, it's supposed to move like this, but and this one here, like if you take the example of flapping wings, but instead of moving there, it starts to like one wing is flapping, okay, which was the original bone like this. That's perfect. But the other one, instead of flapping like up and down, it starts going like this, like down and up, like in the negative direction. Like instead of up and down, it's going like this, down and up. So yeah, that's kind of a problem. The bone axis is flipping. It's necessary so we don't get that inverted error, that -1. So we will kind of like we will just need to reorient the pivot of the bone, which will we will do. Now, The next thing we need is the coloring mode of the bones. So inside the coloring mode, there are a couple of things that we can set. I will next, so we have covered these, and in the next video, we will cover up the bone edit mode. I'm going to choose this. Same thing, control page down to select the whole link, and I will kind of enter the shaded mode. I'm going to choose this and invert the model so you can make it a see-through. Well, not inverted, sorry, the ghost mode. You can press Alt and X to enable it. Now with this done, I sort of need that bone. I will choose Alt and deselect it, Control page down. Okay, now with this selected, you guys can choose if you're selecting a single bone, you can do this, or we can apply a gradient to a whole link. For example, we want to keep the bones on the right side blue, so you can choose any shade of blue. In my case, I'm gonna just pick this dark blue, okay? And as it goes down, I'm gonna pick that same shade and make that just a bit lighter. Or hold on a second. Yeah, just come here and make it a bit light like that. Okay, and I choose apply gradient. What it does, okay, my bad. I needed to zoom out. Yeah, what it does, it kind of like applies a gradient to it, because if I come here just in this panel and height selected, yeah, you will see that the top bone is really dark, and as we go down, it's turning lighter. You guys can like use these two, the gradient, and if you're only selecting a single bone, then you will be able to like select and give it an individual color of your choice. It's for mostly for controllers or helpers or anything. Like you can choose anything as a bone during the skinning process, but here this is just for that. And whereas here on the other side, same thing with the gradient. You guys can like practice this along as we practice this all. Here's the, I'm gonna make this a bit dark. There's dark green, and hold on a second. Let me just pick a lighter color of green, this light green, and apply. Yeah, so this is good for color coding your bones, especially if you have a lot of bones, like left arm, right arm. They could be like opposite colors, like red for the left leg and blue for the right. Left blue, like left arm blue. You guys get the idea. Okay, next thing we have are fin adjustment tools. Why do we need that? Because when we skin the model, we have different techniques here. Skinning is a whole lot of other process, but it has three types available in 3D Studio Max. Okay, we will discuss skinning in a much later detail, but for now, you guys just need to know two things about skinning. The very first thing you guys need to know about skinning is that skinning at first, like 3D Studio Max offers, first thing is weight painting. Weight painting is that when you actually paint the weights on the 3D model itself, like you tell each vertex how should the bone deform to it. Like if I wait, let me just go here and unhide it. And yeah, earlier on, if you look at this topology, it's just made up of a lot of vertices. So weight paint during the skinning process, what what it determines is that like we just paint these vertices and tell it like a heat map how much that specific bone will affect it, like this leg bone, which of these vertices the thigh should affect, and so on. The next thing we have is envelopes. Envelopes are like big capsules. They take the size of your bone, and let's say that capsule is covering all these vertices. It will take them and it will determine a weight on them, like how much these these vertices should be affected by that bone. For that, we have these fin adjustment tools if you want to use envelopes. The third method is that like if you have a low poly model, like this is still not that low poly, but yeah, still like you can choose individual vertices and select the weight for each of them, like you get a full weight table. So that's the reason we have these fin adjustment tools, because you guys, if you have seen rigs before inside game models, they don't use those fin adjustment tools and their bones look simple, same as these. Another thing that during the creation of the bone, you can actually set the size of the bone. You can't do this here because by default it will always give you 0.5, whichever unit you're working in. So another thing I forgot to mention, like when creating the bone, if you want to change the base size of the bone when creating, instead of rescaling it later on, you can use the bone system here. And then you can do the rest, like these buttons are the same, but this one gives you a little bit more properties when creating. For example, IKHK solver. You can assign that to the children and other things. You can choose it to be a spline IK and other things. For example, I set it to a spline IK here, and I want each of my bone to be 1 inch wide and 2 inch tall in height. So now I will create, I'm gonna just go to the front viewport. My bad, sorry, I accidentally typed F there. Yeah, you will notice this. It's much thicker. Like the height means like it's like the width and the height. The height as in this, like you can see that like it determines the radius. Okay, like how big and thick the bone will be. Like let's say you have a character with a arm bicep, okay? You can determine that and it will be like this. And okay, yeah, I kind of chose the IK spline solver. I forgot to check this and assign to root. My bad. I will just recreate the bone. And this will actually be assigned to the children of this one as well. And yeah, I have this IK chain options. You can turn them to nerve. I'm just gonna keep the defaults. And yeah, we get these. You guys really don't know what these are at the moment, but this is useful like if you're just trying to make something like, and if I choose this point, okay, my bad. If I choose this point helper now and move it, it will like move the whole chain with it. We have these different controls now. We can control them. Like it was just to explain to you, like this spline will deform the bones. Like you can assign that at the creation of the bone. You guys get the idea. So that's one of the extra options you get. We will cover this up in the next lessons. But yeah, we have these bones, and you can also determine these front height, width, and these are the same. These fin tools here. In the next video, we will cover up these fin tools and then we will check a couple of bone properties by starting to creating the skeleton for our model.